Do you struggle to notice hunger, thirst, stress, or overwhelm until you're already at breaking point? Interoception might be the missing link, and new research helps explain why this can feel so confusing for autistic people, and why interoception challenges for autistic people are real, complex, and not captured neatly by one simple test. Let's go. Welcome, my stars of Orion. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Orion Kelly, that autistic guy. I'm all about providing validation and support for autistic people and their loved ones. Now, this topic matters because so many autistic adults live in a cycle of, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm not fine. And then other people see the crash and assume it came out of nowhere. But often the signals were there, but our autistic brain just didn't receive them clearly or didn't interpret them in the way other people expect. So look at it like this. Your body has a dashboard, and interoception is how you read it. It's your ability to notice and interpret internal signals like hunger, thirst, your heartbeat, temperature, pain, nausea, your bladder signals, even early physical signs of emotion. That's the basic definition used across the modern interoception literature. So for non-autistic people, those warning lights are clear on the dashboard. They're clear earlier, and they're easier to interpret. But for autistic people, the warning light can be dim, delayed, inconsistent, or just plain confusing. Sometimes it flashes, but you don't actually know what that means. Sometimes it doesn't seem to flash at all until it's urgent. And when the dashboard is unreliable, self-care gets hard. Not because we don't care, but because the data is just plain messy. And the two major reviews both point to this broader idea. Autistic interoception is not simply absent or broken, but often uneven across different domains and methods of measurement. But first, let's bust some myths around interoception. Myth number one, if you don't notice hunger or stress, you must be ignoring your body. Now, in reality, interoceptive differences can make internal cues harder to detect or interpret for autistic people. And the meta-analytic evidence suggests group differences on some measures, but not all. Now, Williams and colleagues' 2023 meta-analysis found group differences on some interoceptive measures in autism, but not every measure pointed in the same direction. While Klein and colleagues' 2025 review reached a similar conclusion across 31 studies. And why that matters? Well, if your signals come through late or unclear, you can look fine right up until you're not. Myth number two. Interoception is just feelings talk. Reality. Interoception includes physical cues and how those cues connect to emotion. Garfinkel and colleagues described different dimensions of interoception, including accuracy, sensibility, and awareness, and found those dimensions can come apart in autistic people, which may help explain why emotions can feel sudden or just hard to name. And that matters because you might feel emotion as a sudden wave because the earlier body cues didn't register clearly enough to warn you in time. Myth number three, the science is settled. In reality, the science is improving, but is still mixed and in no way settled. Both Williams and colleagues and Klein and colleagues highlight major heterogeneity across studies. Different tasks, different ages, different definitions, and different measurement tools. And why does that matter? Well, if one study says difference and another study says no difference, that does not mean you're imagining your experience. It means measuring interoception is actually pretty bloody hard. Let's dig into the research. Okay, so Williams and colleagues 2023, a systematic review and meta-analysis compared autistic and non-autistic people on interoceptive outcomes. And one of their biggest takeaways was that the results were inconsistent across studies. Now, they argue that this inconsistency partly comes from the fact that the interoception is not one single skill. In fact, they break it down into domains. including interoceptive accuracy, so how well you detect signals on tasks like heartbeat detection, interoceptive sensibility, how aware you think you are, often measured by self-reporting, and interoceptive awareness, how well your confidence matches your actual accuracy. Huh? All right, let's try to translate this. Some autistic adults may be less accurate on certain lab tasks, but self-reporting doesn't always line up. You might feel like you're hyper-aware or everything is too much and still miss early hunger, bladder signals, stress cues, because those are not exactly the same system. That distinction is important for autistic adults because a lot of us live with a confusing mix of I feel too much and I didn't notice that until it was extreme. And both can be true. Now, the Klein and colleagues 2025 review then extended this work across the lifespan and identified 31 studies that met inclusion and quality criteria. Their review again focused on cardiac interoceptive accuracy. So Get it, man. I'm fucking bleeding now. Fucking me. This is the worst time to do this, but can I just give you an example? While recording this video, I felt nothing. And then partly the way through it, I had to stop because I felt there was something like in my nose or something. And I tried to blow it and pick it with a tissue and work out what it was and nothing was there. And then I kept going. And then I felt it again. So I walked away and got a tissue and it's covered in blood, okay? I didn't know my own nose was bleeding. The inside of my nose was pouring out blood, okay? This is not a joke. I'm doing an interoceptive video and I didn't know my own nose was bleeding while I was recording a video. I just felt something weird, and then the blood started pouring out. Oh, God. I mean, seriously, how is this even possible? The autistic guy's doing an interoceptive video on challenges and didn't know the nose felt weird because it was bleeding inside until it started bleeding out on him while he was doing a video. There's not blood there, right? Well, that was weird. Can I just go back to the part that I was doing when I freaked out? Yeah, so the Klein and colleagues 2025. Okay, yeah. This is classic. So their review, again, focused on cardiac interoceptive accuracy and interoceptive sensibility and interoceptive awareness. Their findings reinforced the same broad picture. There is evidence of differences in some domains, but effects can vary depending on age, task type, and method. The field still needs more consistent methodology. I'm going to be checking for blood for the rest of the video. I'll give you a translation though. Can you believe this video? Your lived experience is real even if lab findings look different, because many of the tests still don't capture daily life interoception reliability. A heartbeat task in a quiet room is not the same thing as noticing I'm getting overwhelmed, I need water, I'm about to snap, or I need to leave now. That is one of the biggest practical gaps in this field of study. In general terms, let's just critique the body of research on interoception and autism. We'll start off with the measurement problem. Okay, so heartbeat detection tasks are common, but being able to detect heartbeat in a lab is not the same as noticing I'm getting overloaded, I'm about to melt down, I need food, I'm anxious, I need the toilet, I'm overheating, I'm about to shut down, my nose is dripping out blood. So when people read mixed findings as interoception isn't relevant, I strongly disagree. I think it's actually more accurate to say we are measuring a complex real-world function with tools that still only capture part of the story. Williams and Klein both point towards this problem through the variability in methods and outcomes. So in my opinion, the field still leans too heavily on cardiac interoception as a stand-in for all interoception. Now that's useful but limited. Hunger, bladder cues, Temperature shifts, pain, tension, nausea, emotional escalation may matter just as much in autistic daily life. The next critique is on the three-part model. Okay, the three-part model matters. A big reason these studies can look contradictory is that interoception isn't one skill. There are different components. Garfinkel and colleagues show that accuracy and sensibility can diverge in autism, and that this discrepancy may matter for emotional experience and anxiety. And that mismatch fits what many autistic adults describe. In other words, you either feel almost nothing until you feel everything in the extreme, or you feel everything but you can't label it anything. Or you think you're tuned in, but you still miss early warning signs, like your nose is bleeding. That's not inconsistency in your character. It may be inconsistency in the signal reading system though. And the next critique to make is why this connects to anxiety and emotional overwhelm. Okay, so there's a growing view in broader psychology that interoception relates to emotion and mental health because emotion often begins in body signals. Brewer, Murphy, and Bird reviewed atypical interoception as a possible risk factor across different psychiatric conditions, not just autism, which is a neurodevelopmental condition. So if your body cues are faint, delayed, scrambled, hard to interpret, anxiety can feel like it appeared from nowhere because you missed the early rising tide. That doesn't mean anxiety is all in your head. It means part of the body to brain communication may be harder to read. And here's the practical implication. If you can't rely on internal signals alone, then external supports become more important, not less. Here are some practical examples of what interoception challenges can look like in real life for an autistic adult. Hunger can be example number one. All right, so you don't feel hungry, and then suddenly you're like shaky and irritable and foggy, and you can't focus. Now that's not bad planning or failed self-care. That can reflect delayed detection of internal cues. This kind of everyday issue is exactly why the research matters beyond the lab. And for me personally, this is a big one, the hunger example. A lot of times I might get to early afternoon, mid-afternoon, and I feel weak and dizzy and lightheaded and shaky. And I think I'm sick or something's wrong with me. But then I realize I pretty much haven't eaten or drunk anything since breakfast. Example number 2 is stress. Okay, so you think you're fine. Then you snap, you shut down, you melt down. Now, sometimes the early cues like a tight chest, shallow breath, rising heat, jaw tension, they didn't register clearly enough for you to intervene early. And Garfinkel's work helps explain why that disconnect between bodily signals and conscious awareness can actually matter. Example number 3, why can't I relax? If your interoceptive system is noisy, you can feel constant internal static. So rest doesn't feel restful. Quiet doesn't feel quiet. Stillness doesn't feel safe. And if your body feels unclear or unpredictable, relaxation itself can feel effortful rather than natural. That is the biggest world hard relate I've ever had to anything literally ever. Next example is around toilet cues. Now this one gets missed in polite conversation, but it matters. No, not autistic kids. Yep, some autistic adults don't notice the need to go until it's urgent. Now that can affect you, your work, your school, your travel, your shame. It's another example of why interoception is not abstract. It affects basic daily functioning for autistic adults. And example number 5 is about fatigue. So you don't notice your tiredness building gradually. Instead, your body just falls off a cliff. You're fine until you are absolutely not fine. Now that can make pacing incredibly hard, especially for autistic adults already juggling masking, sensory load, and burnout risk. Here are some practical scripts that both autistic people and their loved ones can use to navigate interoception challenges. All right, scenario number 1 is a loved one thinks it came out of nowhere. A self-script, this didn't come out of nowhere. I just didn't get the clear early warning signs. So if I say I need a break, that is me catching it late. That's not me being dramatic. A support script. Well, thanks for telling me. So I can treat this I need a break like an actual alarm, not a debate. Another scenario could be at work. A self-script. My body doesn't always tell me I'm overloaded until it's urgent. So I'm gonna have to take a couple of minutes here just to reset so I don't crash later. A support script. Pretty easy, guys. No worries. Take your time. Do you want me to help with the next steps? Do you want me to write them down? Healthcare scenario. This is a big one. A self-script. I can really struggle to describe internal sensations in the moment. So I've written examples of how this shows up day to day so you kind of get the full picture. And a support script. Look, they probably will underreport their symptoms because the internal cues aren't obvious to them. So here's some patterns we've noticed together. And a scenario around everyday self-care. A self-script could be, I'm not waiting to feel thirsty, hungry, or exhausted. I'm actually going to check my body on purpose. A support script. Hey, you want to do a quick body check? As in, do you need some food? Are you thirsty? Do you need to go to the toilet? Are you hot or cold? Are you in pain? Do you feel tired? That last one is really important. If interoception is unreliable, then routine check-ins are not overkill. They're a support strategy. And they're free. A translation dictionary for you, my friends. I say, I don't know what I'm feeling. You hear, just being vague. I mean, the signal might be there, but the label isn't. So the best reply is, do you want some help naming it? I mean, are you hungry? Are you tired? Are you anxious? Are you hot? Are you overwhelmed? I say, I'm fine. You hear, all good. I mean, I don't actually have a clear read yet. Best reply, let's do a quick body check. Let's feel what you could be not reading yet. Do you need to go to the toilet? Do you need some quiet time? You're hungry, you're thirsty. I say, I need to leave. You hear, dramatic, all about themselves, being selfish. What I mean is, I've actually hit the late warning stage. The best reply is, you need to leave. Okay, we can go now. Let's prevent the crash. I say, I can't explain it. You hear, well, it can't be real then. I mean, I'm feeling it, but I can't translate it into words fast enough. The best reply is, you don't have to explain it. Just tell me what you'd like. What will help? I could say, everything feels wrong. And you hear, well, that's an overreaction. What I mean is my internal cues are scrambled and I need some regulation. Really, the best reply is, let's reduce the input around you. Let's do one small reset. And here's a lightning self-check for interoception challenges. Do you miss hunger or thirst until you're suddenly wrecked? Do emotions feel like they arrive out of nowhere? Do you struggle to tell the difference between anxiety, excitement, and overwhelm? Do you forget about going to the toilet until it's urgent? You're busting. Do you only notice stress after your body is already shutting down? And do you need external reminders like timers, checklists, or routines to read your body? If you said yes to those, you're not broken. Your body's signals may just be harder to read. And one extra question I'd add is, do you often realize what you were feeling only after the event is over? Because that delayed understanding is something a lot of autistic adults quietly live with. Let me give you a classic adult life experience. Let's say you're in a social interaction. God knows why. It's with someone outside of your safe place. Safe person, not safe place. Now, you think you're coping. You're nodding, you're answering, you're doing okay. Then you get to the car and you realize your whole body is just dropping. Your hands are shaking. Your head is buzzing. You're irritable, exhausted, confused, maybe angry. And then you start blaming yourself. But what if the truth was simpler? Your early warning cues were too quiet, or your brain didn't know what they meant, so you didn't intervene early. That's one of the reasons why I think interoception matters so much for autistic adults, because it gives us a framework to replace shame with strategy. A comment question for my stars of Orion. What's the body signal you miss the most? Is it hunger, stress, fatigue, need for a break? And what's one thing that helps you catch it earlier? Put it in the comments. And for even more videos on this topic, check out my playlist, Autism and Dysregulation.